West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand why this is an issue.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Woo! Let's kick it off. 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. Lots to cover today. It's the second anniversary of that terrible October 7th attack in Israel. Where are we with Hamas, the truce negotiations? We'll be covering that this hour. We'll also be talking truckers, chains up in the high country as winter driving starts to kick in. What is Colorado State Patrol planning to do to keep our roads safe? We'll be talking about that. And then, Bill, did you see this mayor of Loveland?
Yeah,
She's got a solution for their homeless problem.
Yeah, well, at least for the night. So that was strange, interesting. It's also to hear the backlash is also interesting. This is kind of fun. This is one of those for me. This is one of those participatory sports in politics where you kind of sit back and grab the popcorn and go, "Wow, okay, this is kind of interesting. Let's see what happens here."
The video in this is wild. Where one of the other city council members is like, "Karen, what are you doing?"
Yeah. So that's
She's like, "Well, they had nowhere else to go," and then the mayor just welcomed homeless people into City Hall.
Yeah.
So they were just like camping out in the hallways.
Brought 'em in. Yeah.
But she put masking tape up to tell them where not to go.
However, she did also spend the entire night there with them, which I appreciate. Not the idea of, "Hi, guys. Bye, guys. See you in the morning." Then I'd have a lot more questions. The fact that she endured the uncomfortableness of not being at home in her own bed to make sure that that she was part of the supervisory team, I do appreciate that because what I liked about it was that she made the decision to open City Hall, then she didn't pass it off to the rank and file. That is, she like, if I'm going to make this decision, I'm going to be one of the people that's going to have to sit here and stay with them all night until we escort them out in the morning. Which, okay, at least if you're going to make the decision, at least you incur some of the negativity as well. I appreciate that regardless of the decision. We will debate that later. But at least you put your butt on the line and sat there with them all night. Thank you. That at the very least, you didn't pass it off to somebody else.
Jackie Marsh, the mayor of Loveland, will be talking about that. We're also going to talk an ICE ad blitz in Denver as they aim to lure local law enforcement officers to join Trump's mass deportation efforts.
We started talking about this weeks ago, now all of a sudden local media's caught up with us. Nicely done.
Channel 9 even trying to fact check it yesterday.
Look at that. We were referencing this a couple of weeks ago. I know. Thanks for catching up, guys. Appreciate
the Elizabeth School Board battle continues with the ACLU, and Bonnie Wallace from Texas is going to join us because they're facing a similar battle down in Texas. Where is that case going? And the radical left's efforts to sexualize young people with explicit content in the school libraries. We'll be covering that as well. So, lots to cover today. Most importantly, though, your voice involved in the conversation by giving us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for news and comment. Mr. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, 46 and cloudy as you listen to the Jeff and Billy Show right here in Denver, expecting a high of 61 today. This portion of the news is sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, the Supreme Court will hear arguments over conversion therapy today.
The case is a challenge to the Colorado law that bans therapy aimed at changing a minor's sexual orientation. Backers of the law say it's harmful to gay and transgender children. A Christian therapist says the law is an infringement on her free speech. Nearly half of all U.S. states ban the practice, and the High Court's eventual ruling could have sweeping impacts. I'm Jim Roop.
How about children's safety first? It's just evil to allow
Said
all
this was
right?
a violation of free speech years ago when I fought this down at the state capitol. It's one of those wild things living in Colorado where you watch these laws get passed and you're like, that isn't constitutional. And the Democrats are like, we don't care. We are totally in control. Sue us. And you're like, all right. So you end up having
why
to
does
sue
that
them.
matter?
And then 5 years later, this thing finally gets before the U.S. Supreme Court. But I want to remind people what this was all about. So
Yes.
they
Thank
passed this law because I sat through this. Like I tried to negotiate this down with the Democrats. I testified against it. I was there through this whole thing. Okay. So they come with this law that says we want to ban conversion therapy. And you're like, okay, well, what's conversion therapy? And they're like, well, there's these terrible practices where gay people are like dunked in ice baths to try to make them straight. And you're like, whoa, seriously?
Wow.
Okay, well, if that's happening, count us in. And I was like the head of the public policy arm of Colorado Christian University at the time. I was like, we'll join you. Like, dude, if they're abusing, and they're like, they'll make you watch gay porn and electroshock you. And you're like, man, if they're doing that, we'll stop it. Count us in. Like, this is abuse. Okay, and then you sit and you read the law and you're like, well, this is just going to make every counselor in Colorado have to counsel the kids to embrace transgenderism. So if you get like a 12-year-old that's going, well, I don't know if I'm a boy or a girl, and the law says the counselor must, by law, tell the kids to embrace transgenderism. I'm like, well, this isn't what you guys are saying it is. This is compelled speech. You're going to force these counselors to have to counsel the kids in a single direction. You can't go, hey, Johnny, let's talk about it. So if Johnny comes in and goes, I might be Mary, counselor has to go, well, let's start the hormone treatments. Let's go, man. So when you read the law, you're like, well, this is just compelled speech. This is like a way big overreach. So listen to the oral arguments today, and we'll try to get somebody from ADF on tomorrow to recap on this. But
please,
listen,
that would be great.
Listen to what they're going to say, because they're going to go out there and go, people are being abused with conversion therapy. And you're like, well, if that's the case, like, we don't want abuse. But what they're actually selling at the end of the day is compelled speech, where every counselor in the state of Colorado has to embrace this progressive worldview, and that's unconstitutional.
Yes, it is. Amen. Man, I'm so glad you're there, because, I mean, it can get confusing. It really can. If you're not paying close attention to it and you have all the experience, thank God that you are a part of this, and we look forward to that the rest of the day and tomorrow. May not be a good time to fly from DIA or other airports. The FAA says the control tower at Hollywood Burbank went unmanned Monday due to staffing shortages during the government shutdown. It's day 7 today. Similar staffing issues affected FAA facilities at DIA, Phoenix, and elsewhere. National Guard troops from Texas are on their way to Chicago and could be deployed as soon as today. A federal judge declined to block their deployment. DJT on Newsmax talking Chicago and Portland last night.
If you take a look at what's been going on in Portland, it's been going on for a long time, and that's insurrection. I mean, that's pure insurrection. And then you'll have a governor get up and say, there's absolutely nothing wrong, and you see these places are burning down. Like in Chicago with Pritzker, they lose 5 a weekend, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11.
30.
It's crazy, and like 35 are shot. You look at some of the bigger weekends, and they'll have 11 dead, 11 murdered, and 50 shot. And then he gets up on television, tells everyone how safe it is. It's not safe, and we'll make it safe. I can make it safe.
And on CNN, need a little Stephen Miller this morning. Get you going. Go ahead, Stephen.
Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks. They're taking jobs away from whites. They're taking jobs away from Latinos. They're taking their health benefits away. They're taking their school slots away. And, of course, in many cases, they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens. And that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration
I said
policy...
it's a dumb question. Okay,
well, I appreciate
no,
that, but
and it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no. That is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
Canadian Prime Minister Carney returns to the White House today to meet with 47, and both will work to strengthen their relationship. There's a 35% tariff on Canadian exports. Discussions will focus on shared economic and security priorities. NHL drops the puck tonight. Brand new season. Avs at the Kings. Last night, somehow, someway, the Jags come back to beat the Chiefs. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence tripped, bounced back up. Wasn't that awesome? And ran it in with 23 seconds to play for their third straight win, and that drive was crazy. He got out of about 3 or 4 difficult situations. Here's the touchdown.
Now Lawrence goes down, has to get up. Breaks the tackle. Touchdown, Jacksonville.
That was pretty good stuff right there, and good for the Broncos. It was his 26th birthday. Devin Lloyd with a 99-yard pick six, and the Broncos loving it. Seeing the Jags beat the Chiefs last night.
A picture perfect. Like, I feel like you could do one of those inspirational videos of, like, never give up.
That's right.
The quarterback.
That's exactly what it was.
What's the
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence
played at Clemson.
Gets stepped on, falls down not once, twice.
Yeah.
Gets up, and then if you watch the interview afterwards, he's like, I was just going to throw it out of bounds. But then I remembered we didn't have any timeouts.
Here it is. It is.
So, I mean, just panic, honestly, because I was trying to get up to get the ball out of my hands. The clock. I mean, we didn't have any timeouts. So I was really going to just stand up and, like, launch it out of the back of the end zone. But then I had a little bit of a lane, so I took it. And
good for him.
It was great. It was a fun Monday night.
One of your sons kind of looks like him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got that long hair.
Got that
all the
long,
girls like it.
Yeah, sunshine.
Yes, exactly.
They call
it Danny Boy.
Every blonde quarterback with long blonde hair on every team, his nickname is Sunshine.
After Remember the Titans?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right, 44 in Arvada, 45 in Centennial, 46 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
There you go. The mentality and attitude. The mentality and the attitude.
Yes, mentality and attitude coming up right now. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a crisp start to this Tuesday morning. Partly to mostly cloudy skies, lows low 40s. Highs today still a little cooler than average, but better than yesterday. Low to mid 60s, lows low 40s. Sunshine, warmer than average temperatures Wednesday through Friday, upper 70s to low 80s, lows near 50. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. A tough anniversary. Remember that October 7th, 2 years ago, 1,200 people killed by Hamas in Israel, abducting about 250. The attack included fighters flying gliders into a music festival, seizing people along the Gaza border. I watched that IDF video. That was a compilation.
Yeah.
And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to watch. Whew, 2 years removed. Do you think we're on the cusp of peace here, Bill?
No, I don't. I personally don't, because I think both sides are looking at delay tactics, and I don't think either side is being realistic as far as finding a way towards peace. I think that my impression, again, I can be completely and totally wrong, is Israel is looking for some sort of an assurance that Hamas is not going to have the ability to not just carry out an attack like we saw 2 years ago, but any sort of attack. They want them to be completely, my word, not theirs, demilitarized. They want them not to have any sort of ability at all, and also to remove them from any sort of the power structure. I believe Hamas just wants Israel to stop targeting them. I don't think they want to give up anything. And I think that Hamas's goal is going to be, in these negotiations, to hang on to as much legitimacy, territory, people, and especially arms and hostages they possibly can. So I don't believe that either side is necessarily trying to come to a reasonable solution right now. I still think that we are, in the very minimum, months away. That's just personally, because I have seen these dances before. I've seen these dances my entire life. And so until the dance card changes, I'm not going to change my conclusions. And I think that's difficult. And I'm not certain that Donald Trump helps things with his large sweeping ultimatums, because he talked about Hamas facing annihilation, I think it was, or that's probably the wrong word, recently in the last couple of days, if they didn't get the hostages and things like that. Well, do we believe that? I mean, he's threatened opening up all hell on earth a number of months ago if all the hostages weren't returned, and they weren't. So that I don't think that type of saber rattling is helping in this situation, nor is it helping in the idea of talks of we need to move all of the Palestinians that are in Gaza out right now and then redevelop it for us and our friends. I don't think that helps either, because that group, they're just saying, well, now we're just talking about a diaspora. So, and it's an ethnic cleansing at that point. And so that's ugly. That's an ugly thing, that in order to have peace, we need to have an ethnic cleansing. Yeah, I talked to the Serbians and the Croats about that one. So again, that's the problem, is I don't see either side taking the steps necessary towards peace. However, saying that, we do have to keep in mind that if Hamas laid down all their weapons right now, this ends. That's incredibly important in this, is that this is not, in my mind, dependent upon a lack of aggression from Israel. Peace is wholly dependent upon a lack of aggression by Hamas. That's where this has to start. And I'm not certain either side is willing to get there yet. But that's personally. How about you?
Well, let's look at the 20-point plan. And I'd love to get your take on this, especially our callers as well. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line. Step number 1 in the 20-point plan proposed by President Trump, Gaza will be de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. I think that's like one of the harshest realities of this, is that if you're Israeli, and I agree entirely with the Israelis, you can't live next to people like you did on October 6th. That world and that ship has sailed.
Well, here's the thing with that, though. This is what I have a problem with, is they're looking for de-radicalization. How is that measured? I can't figure out how that was measured. And the reason why I say that is there are Palestinians who were living in Gaza next door to the Israelis on that day that had no intention of attacking them. There are Palestinians that were living next to Israelis on that day that had no idea about what was going to be carried out in the name of Hamas. There are Palestinians that are living next to Israelis that would be okay living in peace with a two-state solution. They exist, but the assumption they don't is very, very dangerous in my mind, and so is the bromide of de-radicalization. How do we do that? How do we define that? What's the measuring stick for that?
I think in any conflict, you're going to have people that didn't want to be a part of it. So go to World War II. I'm sure there were Germans that didn't necessarily want to go to war with the French. But when you're dealing with a war, it has to be the complete surrender of those that were waging the war. And so when I read the de-radicalization of those zones, it's essentially a complete surrender, like the Japanese or the Germans in World War II. And just because there's some in those communities that weren't involved with it doesn't mean that those that were don't have to completely surrender.
I guess what worries me is, how do the Israelis live next to these people that they lived next to the day before? That idea is that large sweeping generalization of the idea, because where I think that goes is it gives space to, well, if the Israelis can't live next to these people, if they can't trust these people they're living next to, then I think that opens the door and the permission granted for ethnic cleansing. If they can't live next to these people, then don't we have to move those people? Either we have to move the Israelis or those people. One or the other has to occur, unless we're going to create a large demilitarized zone in which we've got military patrolling. And I disagree that's going to necessarily stop the terrorism and the attacks. I'm not certain that gets us to the goal. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about in this entire conversation. Not with you. I'm just talking globally. I'm just talking globally.
It seems like your worry is about essentially battle that's been going on for 2,000 years.
Yeah,
right?
That's why I'm so skeptical on the idea of peace, because it continues, and I've seen it again and again.
It's the clash of civilizations.
Yeah, in some ways.
Number 2, Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza who have suffered more than enough. So Trump saying that, we've got to develop it, and it will be better moving forward. Number 3, if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed-upon line to prepare for a hostage release. During this time, all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment, will be suspended, and battle lines will remain frozen until conditions are met for a complete staged withdrawal. Number 4, within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. That hasn't happened. I think Israel has accepted this, but we're either still within the 72-hour period or Hamas has not fully accepted this. Number 5.
They don't want to give up their chips. That's their safety chips. They know that the only thing keeping them from overwhelming military destruction, and that's just carpet bombing, etc., are the hostages. That's it. And then so that is going to be the most difficult thing. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But you think Israel would do that? I'm not so sure they would do that. They seem pretty measured in their response. I'm not sure they would carpet bomb the entire place.
I'm not certain that we could always say it's necessarily measured. I disagree with that. I think there are times in which, but again, some of the attacks are based on where Hamas has set up their strategic locations and where they're housing people. And they did that in and around population centers and hospitals and schools for necessary reasons. But I do think that at this point where Israel has such a strong military advantage, using airborne munitions to go after things like hospitals and schools might be a little too much. That, yes, it is difficult that and wholly problematic that Hamas place themselves in civilian areas, but that may require more care, not less in some instances. Again, I'm not saying it's universal, but I'm saying that there are some instances there that I've got some real questions on. But that's just me.
Number 5, once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners. Wow. Plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, including all women and children detained in that context. For every Israeli hostage who remains, for every Israeli hostage whose remains are released, Israel will release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. 6, once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. 7, once acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. At a minimum, aid quantities will be consistent with what was included in the January 19th, 2025 agreement regarding humanitarian aid, including rehabilitation of infrastructure, water, electricity, sewage, rehabilitation of hospitals and bakeries, and entry of necessary equipment to remove rubble and open roads. 8, entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties through the United Nations. Number 9, Gaza will be governed under the temporary transition governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. What do you think of that?
Interesting. Again, yeah,
technocratical, apolitical Palestinian committee.
Yeah,
Again, made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transition body, the Board of Peace, which will be chaired by President Trump.
I think that's the linchpin in that. It's the Board of Peace, which again, side note, stupid name, but it's chaired by the largest ally of Israel. Would you trust that? And what I mean by that is if Hamas came and said they have an idea for a board of peace, but the person leading it will be the Ayatollah in Iran, would we go, oh, that sounds safe? I'm not certain we would. And that's why the specificity of placing Donald Trump in charge, and that's the individual that's probably going to choose those people that are on that board. I would be skeptical if I am on the other side of that table, saying that the person that I'm negotiating with gets their largest and most supportive ally to then choose the governing body. I feel like I'm going to get screwed. That just personally, if I'm on the other side of the table, I feel like the larger chances I'm going to get screwed.
Trump builds nice buildings, lots of great golf courses.
Again, I'm not arguing that. The issue being he's the largest ally of Israel and the most supportive in the action. Is that the person that you want running this governing body that is supposed to necessarily be non-political and universal? I don't understand that. Why you'd go with the guy that is the leader of the country that is the largest ally and largest supporter of Israel.
Because he builds nice stuff. It's better than what Kamala Harris would have done. She would have put together a committee and they would have just talked and drank wine.
It would have been stupid to have her lead the committee too. It would have been completely stupid. It's who it is. It's the office that is the problem, not the person. That's the problem.
10, a Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities of the Middle East. Many thoughtful investment proposals and exciting development ideas have been crafted by well-meaning international groups and will be considered to synthesize the security governance frameworks to attract and facilitate those investments. They want to turn it into Dubai, which would be nice. Number 11, a special economic zone will be established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated with participating countries.
That sounds great. The issue that I keep looking at the idea of all this international investment and everything coming in, what I haven't heard, I mean, as outlined as well, is the Palestinians or those in Gaza having ownership. I keep feeling that this is viewed as a great investment opportunity for outside, I know, but hang on, for outside companies and people. And then that means that the individuals in Palestine and Gaza are now permanent renters. If they are not given ownership of what is built, then you got a problem, because now you've created a permanent residency class.
Yeah, but Bill,
that has
can
to
you
rent.
Trust them?
Well, if
can you trust them to build anything?
Well, hang on a sec, though. No. You go ahead and build it. Give it to them. If we're doing this
They
for
have
their
it.
good, hang on, no. If you're doing this for their good, go in there with the investment, build the buildings, build the hotels, build the infrastructures, and walk away.
Oh, come on.
See,
come
that's
on.
the problem.
They're not going to do that.
Okay. I know. That's the problem. See, that's Jeff. That's
no,
exactly.
It's not the problem.
No,
the
Jeff,
problem is because you can't hand it to the Palestinians. They'll just turn it right back into
hang on a sec.
Suicide bombs.
Hold on a sec. Wait. We have a peace deal here. You can't say if we are executing this peace deal, the result of the Palestinians getting a hold of Gaza again is suicide bombing.
Of course it is, because we've gone through 50
That's
years
it.
of this.
Okay, then why would Palestine or Gaza or the Gazans ever come to the deal based on this peace deal? Because right here in our conversation on 710 KNUS at 6:30 in the morning, you have invalidated the goal. Because unless the Gazans and the Palestinians are permanent rental agents of everybody else there, unless somebody else owns and controls the buildings, the infrastructures there, you're not happy with it being peace. And so the fundamental issue is if they have control over their own area, they're going to be suicide bombers. That's the problem.
The problem is that they're suicide bombers.
Hang on. If you're trying to end the fighting, you need both sides to agree to it. However, you've painted the other side as permanent aggressors. There's no way to possibly settle with them. So unless they are subjugated, unless they are controlled, unless they are the permanent rental class inside of where they are so they can be evicted at any point in time, there's no control. That's the issue. That's the issue. Why would they come to peace? Yes, why would they possibly?
Right. You ready?
Why
Can
would
I respond?
Yeah.
Okay. One, you've had 60 years of these people and given them plenty of opportunities to be peaceful people. They're not peaceful people. They believe at their core. They call their moms after they kill as many Jews as they possibly can. Okay? So until you're willing to demonstrate you can be peaceful neighbors, no, we're not just going to hand you the land and develop and say, oh, here's a nice new hotel. All this stuff, that's been done over and over and over again. The United Nations has poured hundreds of millions of dollars into this place, and they continue to demonstrate that they're irresponsible. So give other people control, and if the Gazans over the next 10, 15, 20 years can demonstrate that they're willing to be peaceful with all these nice modern amenities and send their kids to schools where the curriculum's not, hey, grow up and kill as many Jews as you possibly can. Once they're able to demonstrate that, then yes, but you can't just hand it over to them, or you can't just build stuff and hand it back to them until they demonstrate that they can live in peace. Pretty simple in my mind.
If you built it and you own it, what's the timeline? How come that passing of the infrastructure, the buildings, and everything else isn't outlined in that peace process? How come that's not there? And that's my question. Is you're saying that, once they demonstrate they can live in peace, then maybe. But none of that maybe is outlined in that peace process. And that's my gritch in this entire thing, is that there's nothing in there that I see for them to have self-determination or to pass all the infrastructure. Because here's the idea. You think those billionaires that are going to invest in all of the construction there are just going to pass the keys over to them without some sort of a compensation? No, there's no way. And that's the issue, is that, again, we've heard Trump and we've heard others in the administration talk about what a great real estate deal it is. They see dollar signs, and they see dollar signs for themselves, not for the Palestinians or redevelopment. And they're not going to be willing to pass that off. I can't see anything that would make them willing to pass it off. That's my problem, is that
you would rather have them live in abject poverty, but at least they have control of the land, rather than, investors come in from Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and make it a really nice place and have more control over it. You'd rather have them live in the squalor they're in because at least they own the land.
That's a false choice, and not what I said.
That's the actual reality.
That's
the truth.
No, that's a false choice, and not what I said. That if they want to get to this, and if you want the redevelopment and the outside dollars, then there has to be a mechanism to pass ownership onto the people that are there. Otherwise, you're just making them a rental class. That's it. They're a non-permanent class. That's it. And so that's the idea, is you've just taken their land without saying you're taking their land. It's the same thing. That's the problem in this plan. That's it. So until I see that, I don't necessarily see a core development for the betterment of either the Palestinians or the area. I see a development for the betterment of all sorts of billionaire investors. Okay? But I don't think that's necessarily the goal of a peace deal. I think the goal of a peace deal is, let's see how many of the billionaire investors can get a piece of the pie. I would posit that there were other things that might be more important. That's the problem that I have, is I look at this idea of eventually it being a usury relationship inside of that group of people. And if so, you think they're going to live peacefully? If they're never going to be able to own the buildings, the land, the infrastructure, if it's never going to be their country, what if Israel were permanent renters? That's it. They wouldn't be as happy about it either. I'm not saying they would turn to terrorism. I don't think they would. But they sure wouldn't be happy if they had to pay money to Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, just to rent the land every year. That would be an issue. That's an issue here. So that's what I've got. You can't establish a territory. You can't establish peace without letting them have some sort of eventual autonomy. I agree with you about the peace and them having to demonstrate it. But the idea that creating a permanent rental class, I disagree with. And that's what I'm worried about.
When we negotiated peace with Germany and Japan, was there a set date to return the land back to those countries?
Not that I can think of, per se.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah, but the Marshall Plan wasn't, we're going to invest stuff there and then we own it. It wasn't the plan. It was rebuilding for the betterment of the country and the country that was there. So that's the issue. Until I see that, I'm not sold.
And do you think that can be done with Palestinians?
Yes. Yes, I do.
What makes you think the Palestinians in their last 60 years have built a peaceful place that can coexist with the Jews?
Here's the thing.
Whether it's PLO, whether it's Hamas, whether it's any of those groups.
Here's the thing. The Venn diagram of PLO, Hamas, Palestinians is not a circle. It's not a circle.
But I asked you an example of where they have built a peaceful place that's coexisted with the Jews.
I'm not certain that there has been an opportunity for them to live peacefully with the Jews. And there have been lots of problems for that. And you and I could spend the next 3.5 hours walking backwards through history over the course of decades and go, but what about this? Oh, yeah, but they did this. And this conflict, as you outlined, has been going on for so long, there's always going to be a preceding act. It doesn't matter what side you're on, you will always be able to find a preceding act that allowed or justified the aggression that happened. And we can go all the way through, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I would take the position of the Palestinians being right in this one, but I'm just saying that the long stretch of history, there is but they did this first. And that's always going to happen.
I understand that, but the premise of your argument is that you don't want anybody else to own the land. The Gazans should be able to own the land. And I'm just going, when have the Gazans ever demonstrated that they're willing to be peaceful people?
Here's the thing. If we would go by how the Japanese had behaved prior to and during World War II, we never would have allowed them to exist as a separate country. They subjugated and created slaves out of the Chinese.
That was terrible.
Yeah. And so their behavior, we wouldn't go, how could we possibly trust them? And look at what Germany did. How could we possibly trust them? Now, there were some issues as far as Germany cozying up to the Soviet Union, and there was a wall that was built in Berlin, but we got a wall in Gaza right now, and we haven't seen anything change there. So this is the thing is, I think that it is a detriment to peace when we say all the Palestinians are just a part of Hamas or the PLO. I think that hurts the path towards peace. I don't think that that's fair. And there are Palestinians that live peacefully inside of Israel as well. So there apparently seem to be Palestinians that have the ability to live side by side with their Jewish neighbors and not be aggressive. So that I think we need to come to grips with, and then look at, I would again submit something along the lines of a Marshall Plan, along those lines. That needs to be done. But when the idea is just we come in and invest and we derive all the benefit from, if I'm sitting across the table from you, I've got a problem with that negotiating. I'm trying to put myself at that table negotiating for the Palestinians or Hamas, whoever the hell it is. And that seems like a bad deal for my side, because we never are allowed to get out from underneath the yoke of those that control. That's it. There has to be some sort of a peace. And we can talk about, we don't have to have a timeline. We can talk about benchmarks and other things. And that can be negotiated. But that's a problem that I have, is it seems like the offer of freedom without the offer of freedom. The offer of fighting without the offer of not having the fighting.
So the assumptions in that argument are just wild to me. One is that they are generally, it reminds me of trying to build a country in Afghanistan, okay? The cultural difference are so wildly different from Israeli or Western civilization values that they're never going to get there, okay? We've done this for 60 years. We keep doing this over and over again. Let's just give them another chance at peace. Let's just give them another chance to build. And every time, they just rebuild their efforts to go attack the Jews. Okay? At this point, the adults in the world need to step in and say, we're not going to allow this to continue to happen. And I'm sorry, but you had your chance. You've had your chance over and over again. And does it seem a little repressive that you don't have the freedom that you used to? Well, yeah, but you gave that up, okay? We're in adult world now. We're not in fantasy world. And in the adult world, when we give you a chance to build your community, you go build rockets and you shoot them back over at the Jews. So now the adults in the world are stepping in, and they're going to take control, and we're actually going to rebuild your land. And if you can demonstrate over the next 50 or 60 years that you can be nice, peaceful people, then we'll actually maybe consider giving the land to you.
Where does it say that in the agreement?
What do you mean?
When you said, well, maybe in the next 50 or 60 years, we'll consider giving the land to you.
All right, well, add it as 21. But I mean, Bill,
my point.
You're never going to get there.
Wait. When we started the discussion on this list, that was my point. The exact thing that you just outlined that doesn't exist in the agreement. That's my point.
I mean, your point is just that I'm not going to, I don't like this agreement because it doesn't explicitly lay out, like I said to you, when did we specifically hand it back over to the Germans or the Japanese? It doesn't specifically lay that out.
It doesn't have any plan at all. There's no structure at all for that to happen. That's my point. There's not a single working structure.
I don't think you can say that.
Where's the structure
Here's
about passing
15.
it
The
over to them?
United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to deploy in Gaza. The Jordanians, the Egyptians are all going to be a part of that. They're going to facilitate the rapid and secure flow of goods to rebuild and revitalize Gaza. I mean, the idea that there's no ability to hand this back off to them, that other countries aren't involved with this. You have Jordan, you have Egypt, you have the rest of the Middle East involved with this, and you're going, well, because it doesn't explicitly say how the Gazans are going to be able to govern in the future, it's not a good peace plan.
Yeah, it doesn't tell them how they get to have ownership and or control ever of where they live. It's they're a under permanent subjugation. That's what this is. And if that's your goal, okay, just own it and say that's it. That's the goal. But my point is, I think the path to peace would be there. And yes, could it be 50 or 60 years, or could, again, I'm okay with not even having a time frame, but having benchmarks.
Here's
saying
19.
where these benchmarks
While
go.
Gaza redevelopment advances and when the PA reform program is faithfully carried out, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, which we recognize as the aspiration of the Palestinian people.
Yeah, maybe. It's not in there. It's not this is a path for this is, well, it could be if we decide it is. That's it. Yeah, you're not giving them a pathway to do. It still is a if we decide. And the problem I've got is once we, using the royal we, start taking all that money out of Gaza, why do we give it back?
Is it that the Palestinians get to decide? When they decide, now they can have peace?
Again, there should be a framework in there that would allow to an outline as to how. What are the benchmarks? How? But right now, it's just when we decide that it's peaceful enough. The people on the other side, okay.
Again, and I'm going to go back to
they don't know what
Palestinians
to do. They have no idea what to do.
Haven't earned the right to decide, in my opinion.
That's it. And so that's it. So you're okay with permanent occupation. That's okay. And that just own it.
Yeah, if you end up being peaceful people, sure.
Permanent occupation. That's okay. And again, we'll have to talk about the idea of when we went out to Afghanistan and everything, and that seemed to be a problem. People like, hey, we shouldn't be trying to spread democracy and rebuilding countries, but now we're rebuilding countries. In fact, we're putting together a plan that we may control something for 50 or 60 years with Donald Trump in charge.
That's because the neighbors send rockets over to kill the people next to them. We're not just going around to Muslim countries picking them willy-nilly. They're attacking the only Western civilization in that region. All right, we'll continue. We're way past time. Of course, we've done this. We'll have to try to get to You Choose the News, too. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy and I are going to take a moment from trying to solve the world's conflicts to a little levity with You Choose the News.
We're going to make fart jokes. Yes, it's that time of the morning where we do something completely and totally irresponsible. It's time for America's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. I've spent just moments this morning scouring the interwebs for really ridiculous stories about us humans and then giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show because those in charge are not awake at this hour. And we will take full advantage of being left unsupervised. As always, Blake Olson from the news department joins us. Here we go, gentlemen. Your headlines this morning. Headline number 1, seems appropriate, border invasion. Headline number 2, up and away. Headline number 3, I think it's a computer. And headline number 4, quick, grab a bike.
Let's start with border invasion, please.
Yes, border invasion. Recently, a very disturbing incident unfolded near the Pakistan-India border. Indian forces were facing an incursion by Pakistanis. They were coming into Indian territory. Now, you know that they have been on the edge of war for months. Donald Trump was taking credit for settling this down. But recently, gunfire erupted, and 8 were killed. Dozens were injured, and nobody knows who the goats belong to. Goats were coming across the border, from Pakistan into India, and evidently the Pakistani goats weren't allowed to cross the border, so the Indian military shot them.
Aye.
Yeah. I'm just like,
busting
really?
out a Christy gnome.
Ghosts? The ghosts? The goats? I mean, like, that just shoot the goats? Okay. Odd choice, but okay, you do you. Yeah. Okay. Blake Olson, sir.
Someone's got to eat.
Yeah. Up and away. I think it's a computer or quick grab a bike. My man, Fifth Dimension. Oh, Blake, you're the best. I can sing this song. I'm not going to because people are eating at this time of the morning. Oh, you are the best. Here's as we go up and away, honoring the fifth dimension. We find ourselves in Lithuania for this story chosen by Blake. Up to 25 small hot air balloons shut down Lithuanian airport recently, and they were smugglers. Yes, balloons were launched into Lithuania smuggling cigarettes. Thousands of cigarettes, illegal cigarettes, were confiscated by the authorities because, oddly enough, the balloons were huge. And you could see them in the air. And so when they come down, it's pretty easy to catch them. Balloons interfered with 30 flights recently, impacting some 6,000 passengers. Again, there was 18,000 total packs of smuggled cigarettes were recovered. 11 balloons. Yeah. I just keep thinking the smuggling. Balloon. You can't drive them. You can't decide where they live. Oh, well, yeah. Interesting choice, guys. Yeah. All righty. Now, Jeff, I think it's a computer or quick grab a bike.
Quick, grab a bike.
Yes, quick, grab a bike. That is the call coming out from Portland, Oregon. You have heard that Donald Trump is going to be sending the National Guard. Well, some Portland residents have had it up to here, and they're not going to take it anymore, so they're taking it all off. Yes, the organizers behind the World Naked Bike Ride in Portland are planning an emergency ride to protest President Trump's push for the Guard to be deployed in the Rose City. This is going to happen Sunday, October 12th, 2:30 in the afternoon, to protest the militarization of the city. Now, Portland is no stranger to naked people on bikes. They do have that as a form of protest, and they have an annual event there as well. I just don't understand the theory. Jeff and I were debating the idea of peace and stuff here. I can't ever imagine where naked bike ride has been persuasive in any sort of a discussion or argument. I have yet to find the exact moment when someone has gone, oh, bunch of naked people on bikes. I see your point. You win, sir. Let's continue the conversation. I don't understand. But
I think they would have talking British accents if that was the case.
Yeah, I know.
But in Portland, those pepper balls that get shot.
Yeah.
Oh, and the little welts and it's.
But then again, since you're naked, you go to work the next day, nobody's going to see where you got shot. Just saying. All right. That's it. That's it. News. This is 710 KNUS.